Geico's motorcycle expertise gives me the coverage I need, like 24/7 claims. I'm on cloud 9.
Disclaimer, clouds are wholly unable to support the weight of an adult human.
What's happening?
Furthermore, clouds are not numbered. Even if you procured a jetpack and searched, you'd find no cloud numbered 9. However, at that altitude, you'd likely befriend a flock of migrating snow geese.
Geese?
Who'd encourage you to leave your 24/7 Geico motorcycle claims insurance behind, as they would take you in and even share their dinner of crickets and clovers with you.
Ew.
Geico assumes no liability for any indigestion that may occur from a clover cricket dinner. Geico. Expertise for your motorcycle.
You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I want to talk about narcissism, false hope, and how false hope makes you more vulnerable in the relationship, more vulnerable to manipulation and being triggered. Narcissists are extremely well-versed with the concept of false hope, giving you the hope, believing that this relationship is going to be amazing. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm also talking about family relationship, boss and employee relationship. This can all happen in these types of relationships. And the false hope is very important to understand, because in the process of dealing with false hope, we begin to lose ourselves. Now, the narcissist is trying to get something from you in the now, in the here and now. They want something from you right now over a course of time, right? Makes sense. And in the process of wanting something now, they promise you the moon, the stars, the galaxy, and how amazing it is. And they create a different type of reality. And in that process, they are able to get you to tell them about your past, tell them about your weaknesses. They portray themselves as your hero, your savior, whatever. And in the process of creating that, basically what I would consider false narrative, you begin to tell them everything that they want to know. You supply them with all the information that they can later use to get supply from you. You supply them with the information that they need to manipulate and control you, all not knowing, because they appear to be this doting, amazing, caring person that's doing this for you. And in the process, as I was saying in the previous podcast, in 778, we talked about the narcissist and the things that they do and the things that they say they do to make you feel sorry for them. So, for example, I was talking about the false sacrifices. The false sacrifices that I made all these sacrifices for you. I did all this stuff for you. Remember when I did this or I did that? Remember when I didn't take that job so I could help you deal with your sick puppy? Or you remember when I did this and I didn't do that? Or I could have taken those trips with my friends and I didn't go because you needed my help, or I wanted to be there with you. And then later on, they use all these things to try to create this reality that they're there for you, when in reality they're really not. And they were using these things because most of the time these things were not really real. There was no other job, there was no trip, and if it was, it wasn't something they wanted to do anyway. Remember, the narcissist isn't going to do, they're going to do what they want to do. They're not just going to stop doing what they want to do just to help you out. So remember that. That's one of the biggest things, is the narcissist will always take the bigger, better deal. They're not going to do something or sacrifice for you. They're only going to sacrifice for you in theory. So it's in theory that they're sacrificing. It's a false flag, false narrative that they are creating. Okay, so one of the most interesting things about false hope and the narcissist, which I think is interesting, is that they fake a future with you to create the illusion that they have strong interests, that there's deep emotional ties, and there's high investment. Okay? And you start believing this hook, line, and sinker, that they have invested all this time and energy into it. And so you start putting more and more of your time and energy into it, thinking as though, yes, this is real. But it's really, unfortunately, not. They want to make you believe this. They will also feed you lies based on what they believe that you want, what they believe that you need, what they believe in the situation. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. And that's where I want us to really look at as we go through this process. That's what I want us to look at as we go through this process and understand what the false narrative is exactly. And so that's what it is. So they've created this false narrative for you, and they have gone through that process with you. You begin to believe this narrative. They make you more and more vulnerable. And see, the thing is that when you're future faking, that's the concept. So like you are creating this false reality, this false future with a lot of illusion of all this stuff working out, lots of grandeur, lots of stuff happening. The perception of reality is not real. It's distorted. We are facing a reality that the narcissist is creating that is not reality. But they're creating this to make you feel a certain way. They're creating this to make you feel and for you to give more and more and more and more. So these are always very interesting aspects of the future faking. And then they create it too. The interesting part about it is like your needs. Like they figure out kind of what you need. And then they kind of prey upon that. They prey upon that in an effort for you to believe hook, line, and sinker that this is the end-all, be-all to your life. This is the perfect person. This is your soulmate. Now, I'm not agreeing across the board that every narcissist says, oh, my God, let me tell you about soulmates, but it's one of the things that they use. Oh, I feel like we've known each other in a past life. Oh, I think you're my soulmate. And they'll use all these little kind of tricks and teases and stuff like that to make you believe this false reality. Now, this is all fine and dandy, right? This is all fine and dandy, but at the same point in time, it's one thing for us to hear it and go, oh, that's interesting. It's another thing for us to believe it. Now, a narcissist will go that extra mile, okay, in creating the false reality, starting with the love bombing, having all that love bombing, and in the beginning, right? Because and then the false sacrifices. See, that's the biggest thing that I was talking about in the previous episode was, that there's all these false sacrifices, fake sacrifices, made up stories of the things that they've done to help you, right? And how they've made themselves more grandiose, how they've made themselves more at your disposal, there to help you. And you couldn't have done any of this without them. You're literally, you need them to hold your life together. And remember, one of the biggest lies that they will create within you by their manipulation, control, and triggering is to act as though you are not special, to act as though they don't need you, to act as though you need them, right? Because it's all about you needing them for their manipulation to work. Their manipulation and control doesn't work unless you believe that you need them. I know, I'm passionate about this because this is some real stuff here, right? This is real. And this is how they manipulate you to get you to do what they want you to do. They're very good at it. They're very, very, very good at it. And so what I'm saying to you is this. As long as you begin to see through the fakery, okay, and I call this fakery because it is fakery. The entire concept of the manipulation is based on fakery. Faking reality, faking the future, faking what they come to the table with. And that is so important too, is because they can have this false reality that you meet them with. So you meet them and they've created this falsehood of who they are. And it's perfect because it probably feeds right into what you're needing because of your vulnerability. And see, the thing is that they start asking you questions as they're love bombing you. They start asking you questions about your life, and they're very kind and they seem very helpful. And, and it's like oh, wow, I'm getting all this attention and this person really cares about me. And oh my God, this is amazing. And I haven't felt like this and yada, yada, yada. And in your vulnerable states, and you know what I'm talking about, in your vulnerable states, you begin to reveal things about yourself that not only can they use later and they will use later to manipulate and control you, for sure. Yes, remember that happens. So if you've just entered a relationship and you don't know what's up yet, because you won't know for a while because the mask doesn't come off for a while, hold those things to yourself. Keep things close to your chest that still emotionally trigger you.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, and Student Loan Interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
What you're hearing is Hardie Fiber Cement Siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardie knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardie products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardie.
With anybody, even in a relationship at work or a friendship. I'm telling you, I can't harp on this enough, okay? If you found a real friend, over time you'll know it. If you found a real great relationship, romantic relationship, over time you will know it. But in the first few months, don't expose yourself with things that you haven't worked through. Don't get there. Don't go there. And if you already have, for most of you that are listening to this podcast, you've already gone there, right? And I understand that. That's why you're listening probably more often than not. But if you haven't gone there, don't. If you have gone there, then continue here, because this is where we're going. Because what's happened, though, is they made you vulnerable, because in those times you shared with them things that you hadn't shared with other people. And they're later on going to use that. But not only are they going to use that to manipulate you later and to gaslight you and to trigger you and to get supply, first off, they're going to create this illusion of what they bring to you, who they are to you. Okay. And that's very important to understand. That's very important to understand. And, it's interesting because they will paint a picture of being, I'm going to eventually be this very powerful lawyer, and I can financially take care of you. And I know that you have your father to take care of, and your caregiving, and you're having to take care of them. And I'm going to swoop in and then financially take care of you so you can do that. So they paint this picture for you. And in the meantime, they're not this high-powered lawyer. They don't even have a job. They haven't even passed the bar yet. You see what I'm saying? Or they're there, but we're still far away. Or we haven't even gotten into the education. Or we haven't even gotten into that part of school yet. Well, however we know, but they've created that reality. This is going to happen. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is where I'm going to be. So in the process, you're in a different place. So you start giving to them. You start taking care of them. You start giving them things. You start paying for things. You start doing these things in the immediate situation, because you're like, wow, down the road, this is going to be there, and I'm going to have this, and this is going to be great, and I've wanted this, or I've needed this, or whatever. That's how this begins. That's how this begins. And you begin to wrap your life around this reality. You begin to wrap your life around these situations. You begin to wrap your life around it. And this is why I am really emphasizing this, because this can only hurt you. They will prey upon your needs, prey upon your vulnerability, and use that to control you. Use that to control you at all way, shape, and form. And that's where it's so important for you to begin to realize where you're at. Because some of you right now might be in the false hope and the future faking. So the false hope is all derived by the future faking, and the future faking could have just begun for you. You could be in day one of future faking. You could be in year 5 of future faking. And depending on what you're in, the pain is stronger the longer you've been, because there's been false hope, future faking, compounded against future faking on top of other future faking, divided by other, multiplied by future faking, where you're at the point where it seems like nothing has come true and you've been sitting there waiting, holding the bag for years. Some of you are just now into a couple of days in. You're buying into it. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. So we're going to be talking about the future faking and the false hope here. Stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. We'll be back in. Well, I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we're talking about narcissism, we're talking about false hope, future faking, and vulnerability. And right before the break, we were talking about the concept of the future faking and how that creates that false hope, like waiting for things to happen. In the beginning, it seems, okay, all this is going to happen. They create this false reality, this false future reality that's going to take place. And I gave the example of, meeting someone and they're them telling you, oh, I'm going to be this high-powered attorney and I'm going to have this, I'm going to take care of you financially, I'm going to do all this, and you're buying into it. So in the moment you're taking care of them, you're doing things, all these things are happening, but yet they're not a lawyer right now. They're not even practicing. They might not even pass the bar yet or anything like that to even go to law school. They haven't, none of this. So they might not have done any of it. They might not have even started law school. So we have no idea what's really going on, but they're creating this reality because you have told them in your vulnerable states during the love bombing that, you want to go back to school, or you need to take care of your father or mother who's dying, and you would need to take a few years off because you want to make sure that he's okay. And this is all, whatever it looks like. And they're creating this. But in the process, they're not doing a lot. In the process, you're the one that keeps giving into this relationship, giving and helping and all that stuff, while they're not really doing that much, and they're really holding on to that false promises in order to keep, you going, in order for you to keep going, you to feel good about this. They're acting as if they've put in all this investment, which they really haven't. They're, all this strong interest, all this emotional ties, all that kind of stuff. And the reality itself is distorted reality. Now, many of them in the process of doing this will create this whole other layer of, oh, you're a soulmate, or we're twin flames, or we're this, we're that, we're all these. And that's all great, fine, and dandy. Not every narcissist uses that in their arsenal, but some do, creating that kind of that reality in the beginning where this was star-crossed and, this is the way it had to be, and this was a meant-to-be situation, right? And there's a lot of meant-to-be situations. There's a lot of meant-to-be situations, but it doesn't mean that they're all positive, okay? That, they sometimes can actually be very challenging and even really painful. So, we have to understand that there's a lot of meant-to-be situations, not all that we're all this like soulmate. Oh my God, we're twin flames and we finally met one another and this is our chance to be together forever. That's not necessarily what it is, but that's the creation of the manufactured reality that makes you even tell them more about your vulnerable state and things that you've done that you wouldn't tell others. Okay. Right. What I'd like to give you a couple of examples though on future faking when it comes to like a family relationship. If a family member is doing something that you don't like, it's really challenging, and you ask her to change your behavior. Maybe they say yes, but then they go back and kind of do it again. They kind of lie about they misrepresent themselves about making change. If it's at work, maybe your boss is promising you this raise, promising you this new title, and it keeps getting pushed off month after month, and they keep dangling that carrot. If it's in a romantic relationship, the other person is talking about this future that y'all are going to have together and how great it's going to be. and all that. And they want to rush you into things too. A lot of the folks that are creating this false reality because they're telling you, oh, it's going to be so great. We're going to have this, we're going to have that, we're going to have this whirlwind romance and all this stuff. They're going to try to rush you to make decisions, rush you to get married, rush you to move them in, rush you to take a trip, rush you to get engaged, rush, so that you are really in, the throes of the relationship in order to keep it going. And this is very important to understand, because once you start seeing this, you can't unsee it. Once you start seeing this, you can't unsee it. And I want you to really catch on if y'all are in the beginning of a relationship and the other person's trying to rush you, rush your decision making, make you make decisions very quickly. All these things, we need to be aware of this, because this is manipulation too, because they're driving this and they're making you rush because they don't want you to awaken. They don't want you to see the truth yet. They want to keep going and rolling game and get what they want before you wake up and realize this is a false reality. Stay tuned. We talk a lot about this here on this podcast. I hope I can help anybody that's going through this. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. We've been talking today about narcissists, false hope, false realities, and our vulnerability. And right before the break, we were talking about examples of future faking. 3 types of relationships, and we talked about that. And right now, a lot of people ask me, Ashley, hey, do they know what they're doing? Do they know that they're future faking? Do they know that they are manipulating and trying to control the situation? I think some people do and some people don't. Some people are probably doing it on purpose while others aren't. And it's interesting. It's something to be pointed out. It's something you could point out in the relationship if this is happening. Hey, you're making all these promises and saying all these things and creating this reality, but none of this has really come to fruition. I just wanted to bring this up because, it's creating this feeling or emotion within me, or, it's just not feeling good because it seems like everything that you bring up is not really true or has not come into existence, and wanting to actually bring up that type of reality.
What you're hearing is Hardie fiber cement siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardie knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardie products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardie.
I think that some probably create it because they want to create this reality. They want this somehow for their own, because of their own fear factor, for whatever. I think some actually do it out of control, to control you, to create a false reality, to get you to do things for them in the moment when they need it. And I think that's very interesting to understand as well. And I think when we have repeated broken promises, this impacts a relationship. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's full-on deception, but sometimes it is. And there's a lot of red flags that may indicate when something is really future faking. And we talk about the red flags a lot in various videos on YouTube that I create. If you haven't been to YouTube lately, or you're not subscribed lately to the channel or haven't subscribed, go to YouTube and go to Life Coach Ashley Burgess. Life Coach Ashley Burgess. We have almost 200,000 subscribers, and would love it if you subscribed and commented on some of these videos, letting us know what you think, letting me know what you think. When it comes to red flags in future faking, one of the biggest red flags that I find is when someone is wanting, the other person is wanting you to make decisions very quickly. So they're wanting you to make decisions very quickly that impact you. Whether you're moving across the country for them, whether you're, getting married to them, whether you are, putting them in as an owner of your home, or putting you or asking you to put them on your health insurance, or asking you to put them on your life insurance policy. There's a lot of red flags that I find in the beginning of the relationship that you need to be aware of. Convincing somebody to get married very quickly is a red flag. All these things, financial situations, wanting you to take care of them, buy them a place, buy them a car, all these things in the very beginning, very much a red flag. Another big red flag is that I hear the words whirlwind romance used a lot. And that is a red flag. What I've found is most whirlwind romances are just that. It's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale. It's AKA love bombing, and definitely needs to be seen for what it is. And they'll also speak in over the top, grand comments, and I just think these are the things that, to me, is more choreographed and organized and planned, and again, a major red flag. Another thing about this whole fairy tale is that it seems too good to be true, right? And what we know about that is that when things seem too good to be true, they probably are. And the problem with a good spun fairy tale based on future faking is that they have you at your most vulnerable state. They know what you need. They know what you want. They know what's at your deepest, darkest. They know all that. And so they can, use that, pull on those hope and heartstrings to get you to do what they want. And I've seen it a lot where people will create a reality that's not them, or it's a reality that's kind of them, but not really. Or they say they're going to do these things that they really have they're not going to do. And they're not making any type of movements or progress to do things that they say that they're going to do. And that's a big deal, is that when somebody's creating this false reality and saying this is going to happen in the future, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, you got to step back and begin to see the truth, because a lot of times what happens in the next red flag is they're not doing the small things that they say they're going to do. So they're not doing things. They're not doing things. So, yeah, I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to help you do that. They don't show up. They don't help. They don't contribute. Oh, well, yeah, I would have paid for that. I don't understand. I mean, it's not all about the money. I don't get it. And the next time something comes up, they don't pay for it. Then, oh no, and it's constant. It's constant. They're not holding up their weight. They're not carrying their weight in the relationship. Also a problematic situation. These are very problematic situations. And they might be saying one thing and doing quite a bit of another. They might be saying that they're part of this relationship, that they're carrying their weight, that they're doing this, but they're not doing any of it. They're not budging at all. And so they're saying one thing and not doing it. And it's easy to believe in these words over a while, because the words are what got us into this in the first place. They're words. They're smooth talk. Right? The smooth talk. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's exactly how you got here in these situations. So we have to be very careful that we're not just hearing what we want to hear, that someone's just not saying what we want to do based on the stuff that we told them in the beginning when they were love bombing us. We need to be aware of that and safeguard ourselves. Another thing that's very important is, let's just say that you finally do confront them about them not following through, lack of actions, empty promises, what's going to happen if it's a red flag is that they're not going to take responsibility or accountability at all. They're going to deflect it. They're going to find something to use against you. They're going to turn it on you. They're going to find something wrong with you in an effort to offset this conversation completely. In an effort to offset this conversation completely, they will do whatever they have to do because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. And so that is something that we want to be able to be aware of. And when they do that, we have to be aware of the fact that indeed they are not dealing with the responsibility for their actions. They are not dealing with any sort of accountability. And instead, they're going to turn it on you. So when you do bring these up and you do say, hey, you said you were going to do this or you said you were going to do that and you haven't done that. Is there a reason for that? What's the reason? Can we talk about it? What the red flag is going to be that they're not going to say, they're going to basically defer the conversation, flip the script, make you the problem. Well, I didn't do that because of you, or I didn't do that because you dropped the ball here. Whatever they have to do to basically move the goalpost, right? To make you the problematic person. Another concept, too, is that these people do not, because they are narcissistic and have very little empathy and are all self-centered in their own life and what they want, and they've created this false reality anyway and this false ideas anyway to get you even more ensnared in them, is that they're rarely going to apologize to you for anything. So even if they have made these claims and they haven't followed through, it's not like they feel bad about it. They're not going to apologize. Right? I mean, but if the shoe was on the other foot, they would be, basically grinding you into the ground for it. And so I really need you to see these red flags, because it's one thing to make, a statement and not follow through, but have the intention of doing it, but life gets in the way or finances get in the way or something like that. It's different when somebody is creating these false futures, future faking, in order to try to control and manipulate you in an effort to make you believe that that is your person, that this person is going to help you. And one of the things that we find a lot of time with future faking is that we put our needs aside and we end up giving and giving and giving to this other person because we know that eventually this person's going to come in and do X, Y, Z, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that and they're going to make this happen. But in reality, as you go and as the weeks and the months go by and the years, the things aren't changing. And so we need to be aware of our own feelings. I mean, we need to be aware of how we feel when things are brought up. We need to be aware of how we're feeling with this person. We need to be aware of how they treat us. What kind of burden are they putting upon us? What kind of responsibility? Do we hold all the responsibility? Does it come down to us? Are they not taking responsibility? Are they not taking responsibility for their actions? Is that what is happening? And this is very interesting. We also need to be aware of consistency. Consistency in any relationship is key. I mean, is this person like holding up, their end of the bargain? Is this person carrying their weight? And I think what you'd have to say is if you're dealing with a narcissist, dealing with future faking, and you're dealing with a narcissist that's made you vulnerable, they are not consistent at all. They are not reliable. They are not consistent. They might tell you one thing, but do another. And when one of these people consistently does that, that's the other side of the coin, is that you might be experiencing this complete and utter disconnect where literally you were at the point where this person has literally made up this stuff over and over again, told me they're going to take care of things, don't do it. And now I'm at the point where I don't believe them at all because they only follow through maybe 5 to 10% of the time. And that's really, really challenging when that happens. Because now you're starting to see it, but the problem is you lowered your standards so much. You've lowered the bar so much in an effort to be with this person, because over time, the future faking begins to kind of go away because you've been with them for so long, you're starting to be like, wait a second, I don't think this is ever going to happen. Wait a second, are we ever going to do that? Is that ever going to take place, or is this always going to be a fantasy? the whirlwind romance and the love bombing has pretty much subsided. And now there's arguments and fights that take up most of the time, or passive aggressive behavior, or silent treatment, or starting fights on a constant basis in an effort to offset. Because what happens here is eventually you come to your senses and you realize, wait a second, none of this has come to fruition. None of this is actually taking place. None of this is happening. So what do I do? How do I handle this? What do I do next? Very important aspects. Very important things to think about. Because that's when the rubber meets the road, because you said, okay, hey, they've been promising me this, and it is not happening. It's not coming to fruition. And so being aware of the promises, being aware of this consistent, constant situation in this relationship, because once we're aware of these types of situations and we're realizing what we're in, it changes the entire dynamic. All of a sudden, you now have awareness. Awareness is key. Awareness is key to you awakening to the situation, because that is so important. Once you can awaken to the situation at hand, all of a sudden, it makes perfect sense. All of a sudden, you start being able to see things clearly. All of a sudden, you begin to understand the manipulation involved. All of a sudden, you understand how this has been going on for so long, because they have you in a vulnerable state, meaning that you want certain things, you would like to have certain things come out of it, you would like things to happen, but you know what, they haven't, and you're starting to realize, and this person now, you're starting to see it, because what happens here is it's all fun and games in the beginning, and that fantasy is played out because you're believing the fantasy as well. But then over time, that narcissist is not able to keep the mask on. They begin to put you down, make fun of you, create arguments, fight, do all different types of things that bring you down. And that's one of the things that we have to begin to look for. And as we see that, it comes more and more, because the future faking starts going away, because they're not creating that reality. They're not making that happen. They are still doing the same thing and not actually acting. There's no actions. There's no follow through. There's no truth that is necessary. And so this is when you start seeing where the rubber meets the road. This is when you start realizing what's going on. And I know that a lot of people, when they wake up to this, it's kind of painful. It's very sad. It's a bit overwhelming. It's super triggering, but it helps us to begin to start to move on and find truth in our life. But in the process, calling this person out eventually, having the backbone to do it, and moving forward. Stay tuned. Lots more to talk about. You don't want to leave the show right now. You got to listen to the rest of the podcast, because there's a lot more things that I want to talk about really quickly in our last segment. Okay, stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with me, your host, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I've been talking about narcissism, more importantly, about future faking, false hope, and how they make us vulnerable. And that false hope really hurts once we realize that it is not real. And some of the ways that we can safeguard ourselves and realize this is, first off, as we see this happening and somebody's not walking the walk, they're talking the talk, not walking the walk. Everything that they say is not happening. It's been months, maybe even years. It's time to stop, and it's time to bring up reality and see where they stand in this reality. Where do they stand when you bring this up? Where do you stand? Where do they stand? How do they act? How do they communicate? And this is very important, okay, watching them. How do they move forward? What do they do? All these things are very important to understand, because we must bring up reality. We must live within reality. 2, creating boundaries, the boundaries that we need to create. How do we create these boundaries? And it's about creating boundaries around the situation, about not sharing any more of your vulnerabilities with them. It's about not accepting false realities. It's about putting your foot down. Hey, you know what? You said this 2 months ago. It didn't happen. Is there a reason why we're not following through? Is there a reason why this is happening? Bringing it up, not just going along with it. You know, one of the other big parts too is realizing how you've lowered, and I don't mean standards, but I do, how you've lowered, you know, your standards to the point where there really isn't any standards. You're just giving this person just carte blanche. They have the ability to do whatever. You just take on whatever they give you, you know what I mean? That type of thing. And it's really important for us to recognize that, important for us to realize that. And I really want to, you know, when you keep getting let down, you know, but the person is speaking, is talking a different game, that's, you know, that's something that we have to be aware of. That's something that we have to be, you know, straightforward with ourselves about. You know, that's a big thing, is that we can't lie to ourselves. You know, we have to be aware of that. But when we're let down over and over again, it's very easy for us to feel a certain way. It's very easy for us to get down. And especially when they play upon your vulnerabilities and your emotions. You know, they're playing upon your fears. You know, they're playing upon your vulnerabilities. That can be very tough and very challenging and very hard to deal with. Okay. And so I want you to be aware of that. I also want you to just check in with the truth. It's like, you know, they have created this reality saying that they're going to do X, Y, Z. You know, if nothing has been done and we're just talking and there's this great grandiose plan, right? This grandiose plan about what's going to happen. It's time to ask, hey, when are we going to talk over this? When are we going to have some actionables? When do you think we can move forward with this? You know, if you're wanting to do this or start a family, when are we going to do this? Asking the questions, getting past the plan or the idea stage and going into actionables. And I think that will be your telltale sign, is that other person is not intending, has no intent of having these actionables, following through with these actionables. This is your sign that this is future faking. And then also, I need you to be real with yourself about the false hope that was created. It's okay to have hope. It's okay to tell somebody about your vulnerabilities, but be very careful who you tell. And if you've already told the narcissist about your vulnerabilities and they've already exploited it and they're already using it these certain ways, it's time to really, you know, recognize that. It's time to be awakened to that. It's time to see that as what it is. Okay. And that's very important. It's very important. And, you know, we can all fall for this false hope, but we just need to recognize that that's exactly what it is the false hope. And, you know, last but not least is, you know, getting right with our fears, you know, getting right with, you know, our dreams and desires, and seeing how we can begin to fulfill some of that on our own, working within our fears and understanding how our fears have gotten us into this type of relationship. All of these are very powerful aspects of being able to see the relationship clearly, because what we know is that if it really is this, and it is narcissistic baiting, and it is future faking, this is not going to get any better. And it's going to be a waste of time, and it's going to hurt you, and it's going to manipulate you, and it's going to take you away from finding a relationship or a connection or a friendship or a work relationship that actually could be beneficial to you. So it's awakening to the truth as soon as possible is our way out. It's our way of gaining our control and power back in our life. It's a way of, you know, feeling better about our life. It's a way of reconnecting with ourselves. And it's also a way of creating those boundaries and putting the burden upon this person that has created this false reality to either prove themselves, or it's time for you to move on. And I hope that this show has helped you. If you know of anybody that's going through this, you probably have a friend, family member that's going through this, and it's painful to watch. You may be going through it yourself, and it's painful to live. And in this process, we just need to see things truthfully. We need to put our boundaries down, and we need to move forward. I hope this has helped. If you haven't already, check out the new website design at ashleyburgess.com, ashleyberges.com. And also we have, I have some new folks working with me right now, some new therapists on board. And so go to ashleyburgess.com/coaching. You can go to the coaching page and you can read the bios of everybody and you can set an appointment right there. So stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. Well, I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.